Hey guys, and welcome to another devlog video for the NPC Manager system. First of all, I wish all of you are staying safe. I know most of us are pretty much stuck at home with what's going on right now in the world. So at least for me, I've been really busy for the past few weeks, and I have barely had any time for game development, which is why it's been kind of quiet around here. But thankfully, the past few days I've gotten some more time, and I've been working really hard on the NPC Manager, and I have some really cool updates that I'd like to show you guys today. So I'm not gonna talk too much. I want to go ahead and jump in and show you what I've been doing. The video today is going to focus mostly on the improvements that I've done to the station system. The first thing you'll notice here is that the stations have this nice little outline of the animation. That was super simple to add, but I think it gives it a nice visual representation, so it's easier for you to align. Like in this case, this station is going to be this NPC kind of fixing something on the wall, and because you can see the actual silhouette of the animation, you can actually align it properly. Same thing here. This guy's going to be like hammering something, and you can see this is going to be like playing the guitar, and you can see here that now every station has the ability now to have a animation frame, which is going to be a lot easier to show. You can obviously hide this when you start the game. For me, for the demonstration purposes, I'm keeping them visible, so as the NPC goes from station to station, you'll see that he matches exactly the animation. So that's the first thing. I did a general pass on the code. I feel like it's a lot more solid now. I made sure that the NPC is aligning properly to the location. I gave it a little bit more leeway before, but I noticed that really you want to have the alignment as close as possible so the animations match when you have props. So yeah, so the first thing we'll do is I want to show you guys the ability of animations now to spawn their own props, and that's really neat. So if I select like this station here, station working, you'll see that we have some general settings, including the the pose, hitting, etc. But we also have on the animations, we have onto the animations, like regular animations, you can see that we have now a new struct called prop details, and here you can specify either a skeletal mesh or a static mesh that will spawn when the animation starts. You have a socket name, so it's going to spawn and attach it to a socket. Then you have an offset, and you have an attached rotation, and that's going to depend on the mesh. So the idea here is probably what you've seen in many games. If you want to animate a blacksmith working on a station, when the blacksmith gets to the station and he's like hammering away or doing something, you want him to have a prop, but only when he's at that station. So this is kind of tricky to get to feel right, but it looks really neat. So I'm just gonna hit play here, and we're gonna see how this guy is gonna come to this first station. And as you can see, as he aligns, he spawns the prop, and obviously this is just a random prop that I got from one of the Unreal projects. I think this was the RPG project that they had. He spawns the prop. You can see that it's attached to his hand socket, and when he's finished with the station, he is going to despawn the prop and move on with his life. So this is only available, you can see that now he's going to go and try to play the guitar here. It's only available when he's at that station. So here, I don't have a guitar model. You could obviously have a little guitar pop up, and you can have this bard kind of playing around here, and when he's done, he's going somewhere else. So I'm going to try one more time. I want to see if I can pick this guy up. It's obviously completely random. Oh, awesome. But I wanted to show you this one. And here you can see that in this case, this is a static mesh, and it's an axe. Obviously, again, it wouldn't be an axe. It would probably be a hammer. But you can see that it's working, right? This one here has a static mesh prop. It's still attached to the right hand, and this one here has a skeletal mesh. And that's important because depending on what you're trying to do, If you want a skeletal mesh, that means that you can animate the prop. You can do that as well. So this can be any prop, by the way. It's just going to be attached to a socket on the NPC. So that's the first thing I wanted to show. I think it gives it a very nice ability, because now you can have all these NPCs working, and you can have the props popping up. The other thing I wanted to show you guys, I'm gonna be moving stations here because things are random. Moving these guys out for now. I wanted to show you guys a new kind of station, and this kind of station is called a linked station. I'm going to move this here, and I'm going to populate and categorize. And you can see that the color at the bottom is different. So each station now has a specific category. So if you go to station option, you can see that we have station type, and we have 3 different station types. Regular, which is what you saw earlier. This is basically a regular station. It can be assigned to any NPC randomly. There is no connection. The NPC goes there, does its thing. You can have linked, which you're going to see here. It was kind of the more complicated one. And you can have sequential, which I'll show you in just a second. So linked means that you want 2 stations, 2 or more, to be connected to each other in some way. So say that 2 NPCs here are talking, right? You can see that this is Station Talk 8 and Station Talk 9. These guys are supposed to be talking to each other. But if you recall the very first video where I showcased the NPC manager, some NPCs would go to a talk station and they would just start talking, but nobody else would be there. So they would just look silly because they're talking to themselves, right? So the idea here is that you only want to you want to fill the stations that are linked in a priority manner, right? So if I have a lot of stations, you want the manager, the POI manager, to be intelligent enough to fill the stations that are linked and give it priority. So if I have a just grab this guy here just to show the point here. If I have several different stations and one NPC is assigned to a link station, you want the other link station here to be part of a priority queue, so the next NPC that comes automatically fills the station, so then these guys can start talking, right? So that's exactly what's happening. If you have one NPC, then obviously it'll choose any station randomly. But if you have 2 or more, in this case, the first NPC that's assigned one of the link stations, anything that's linked to this station will automatically be put on a priority queue, and that means that this will be filled before this one is filled, so these guys can start talking. There's another thing with linked, is that what if you cannot fill the linked station? And this is where the different animations come into play. And this is something that I've added to. Notice now that if you open station options here, you have regular animations and linked station animations. So regular animations are going to play if the station is basically filled, but the link station is not filled. And the link station animations are going to play only if both stations are filled. And why do I do that? Well, this station is supposed to be the NPCs talking to each other, but if one NPC comes here and there's no other NPCs filling this, the regular animations will play. And in this case, the regular animations are idle animations, you can see here. But if both stations are filled, then the linked animations will play, and these are going to be the talking animations. So you can see here. So if I hit play here, it's going to be a lot easier to see. Well, this guy's going to come here. Let's just try again. There you go. So he's going to pick one of these 2 stations, and he's going to pick this one. And notice that he's playing the idle animation here because this station is not filled. So that gives you a fallback, even if for some reason there are not enough NPCs, or for whatever, you know, this is all a random simulation, right? They won't look like they are talking to the air, right? You can see that this guy now switched to this station, but he's looking like he's idle. But what happens if I have another NPC? And it's going to put him a little bit farther here. And I'm going to remove this guy just to speed up the video. Look what happens. I'm going to move this a little bit farther. If I click on simulate, this guy picks one station. And he's going to be just idling here because this station is not filled. But as soon as this guy comes here, notice what happens. Now this guy starts talking. And as soon as this animation stops the loop, now this guy starts talking. Because every single time a new animation plays, it checks the status of the link station. So that gives you a lot of leeway. You can see now that these guys are talking because now they're both linked. So this was actually pretty tricky to work out, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So you can still reuse this as a regular animation, as a regular station rather, and it will just play regular animations. But if somehow this can be linked and filled, then it'll switch to the linked animation, and now everything should look way more natural. You can have these stations everywhere in your building, in your level, and it'll be intelligent enough to play the right animation at the right time. So pretty cool. And the third category, and you saw that earlier, I'm going to delete that, is the sequential. And I'm going to grab these guys here, and I'm going to move them all the way here. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to again grab the little guitar guy here, and we're going to populate and categorize. And sequential is exactly what it sounds like. I was talking to one community member on Discord that's really interested in this system, and he was telling me about kind of what he's thinking about in his game. And it makes perfect sense, right? You may want an NPC to do a specific set of actions in order. And that's where the sequential stations walk in. So say that you're in a restaurant and you want the NPC to go and order food. And that's one station where he's going to be animated like in a counter ordering food. Then after that, you may want him to go and sit at a table and eat. That's going to be another station. And when he's finished, maybe you want him to go and exit the building or do something else. Maybe go dance in the dance floor or whatever, right? But before I implemented this, there was no way to guarantee a specific sequence of stations. They would just be randomly picked, and then an NPC would be here and get in the middle of the queue or at the end of the queue, and obviously it wouldn't really work. So now you have this third category, and you can see here that I have sequence, and all these three are categorized as sequences. Oops, here. You can see station type sequence, and what you basically do is in the POI manager itself, you can actually create sequences. You can have a little category here, and you can see that I have a ordered station list, and you can see that I've created the queue here as idle, laugh, and stretch. So I'm defining the sequence here in the manager, and the manager is going to be intelligent enough to know that the very first station in the sequence is going to be part of the queue for random stations, but these other two on the sequence are going to be reserved. So what's going to happen is, and by the way, notice that this is an array, so you can have as many sequences as you want. So I'm going to populate and categorize. And what's going to happen is that right now when the NPC comes in, the manager is going to assign one of two stations randomly. Either this standalone guitar one, or the very beginning of the sequence chain randomly. And if he chooses the beginning of the sequence chain, then the NPC will be forced to go from from station to station until it completes the sequence. And it's going to hit play here. And notice that it randomly picked the very first part here. And because it's now inside the sequence, when this is over, it'll automatically be, when you request a new station, it'll automatically be told to go to the next station in the sequence. Instead of going to another random station here, it is going to be smart enough to do that. And there is a possibility. There you go. You can see it aligns very, very closely to the feed, and it starts doing that. I should have made the time of each station a little smaller. It's between, I think it's 10 or 30 seconds, so there's like a range, picks a random range. But you can see the point here that we're actually going in order. And when it's finished, it goes to the last one on the sequence, which is going to be stretching. And then when it finishes here, it's going to request a new station. And again, it can be given a random station, which is going to be either the first or this one here. And it's trying to go by the schedule here. I'm going to take that off. So now you've seen kind of the 3 different types. And what happens now is that we can actually see everything in action. So I'm going to go ahead and bring some of these stations here. Move this guy here. And I'm going to bring this to here. And here. And I'm going to populate, categorize, and I'm just going to I'm going to multiply these guys here. How many stations? And by the way, hopefully it's not too buggy. I was working on this pretty quickly, but I figured that it was good enough to show. So let's go ahead and click on play and see what happens now with all these NPCs coming in, and they're going to be randomly selecting stations. And you can see that, there you go, they're talking, this guy's playing, this guy decided to pick the first one, and these guys are working. So you can see here, these 2 are working, this guy's following the sequence, and these guys are talking because they're filled. And in this case, it's because every single station is completed. Notice what happens here. Just right here, you can see there's a little bug. This was not filled. This was not free, so this guy was assigned. So that's something I still need to work on. You can see that this guy was assigned the first one on the link. So that's one thing that I still need to work on. But you get the point, right? This guy is now here because this was free, and this station is free. So yeah. That's the main thing that I wanted to show you guys today. A lot of enhancements to the code. I think now with this combination, you can create a lot more intelligent behavior. And that should help you guys create that feel that you get with a lot of these RPGs, right? Where it just looks busy, right? When you go into a tavern, NPCs are just, it really does look alive. So that's kind of the goal here. Actually, you know what? Let me show you guys one more thing or 2 more things that I've been working on really quickly. This is going to be like 2 minutes. I have been thinking about crowds, and I've also been working on improvements to the proximity system. It's not ready to show yet, so that's probably going to be the next devlog where I'll show you the improvements. But one of my goals, as you guys know, is to give you guys the ability to create crowds, right? So even though I'm making a lot of headway with the improvements to the proximity system, it's still pretty heavy, right? These NPCs with these components here, right? This is a pretty heavy component. It's using a lot of different events, and it's using tick for a few things. It's using a behavior tree. So even with all the optimization, you still shouldn't have more than maybe 100 or 200 of these guys active in the scene at a time. They're very heavy. So what I've done is I started creating simpler NPCs that are not intelligent, they're kind of dumb, to help you create a crowd. So if I come here to my NPC, I have a little crowds folder here. And I have what I call a static NPC. And if I select this guy here, notice that I have a new component called static NPC. And this is super simple. This NPC is basically going to be static. And you give him a list of animations, intro, loop, and outro. In this case, it's going to be like a cheer animation or idle. And this guy is literally going to stay in place and just play the idle animation. There is no behavior tree here. There is no tick. And actually, I go in and automatically optimize a lot of the stuff for the NPC, I take out tick. And the idea here is that you'll be able to kind of create like a little crowd. If you've seen all these games, right, where you have like a nice little crowd and you're walking around, not only do you get NPCs that are intelligent, but you have some NPCs that are going to be standing around and just looking busy, right? If you want to fill a street with a lot of people, you may want to have a mixture of actual NPCs like this guy here that are going to be talking and walking and going to different stations. You also might want to have static NPCs that are looking like they're doing something in the crowd, right? And these guys are a lot lighter on performance than the other one, which is why it's interesting. There's another option that you saw here that is called Force Mesh LOD, and this is basically forcing the NPCs to have a specific LOD. So if I click play here, you can see that these guys are obviously at maximum LOD. If I run all the way here and I eject, if I come back here, well, doesn't seem like they're doing much here. Let me see here. But they should be LODing, and I don't see them LODing for some reason. That's weird. But the idea here is that you'll be able to force these guys to have a higher LOD. So say that these guys are supposed to be a very far crowd and you're not going to see them close by. You can do something like, you're going to force the LOD to 7. And I'm going to make this 6 so you can see the different levels here. 5 and maybe 4 on this one. And then when I click play, notice that they have different levels of LODs, with this guy looking absolutely ridiculous because this is the last LOD. So you can see that you can actually specify the LOD here. So obviously you wouldn't do that here, but if you have a big crowd with a lot of these NPCs and they're really far away, again, you're trying to fill a level, you can very easily set the LOD to whatever you want it here. And that should help with performance. Again, I'm trying really hard to squeeze as much performance as possible to help you guys make crowds. So this is something that you would set like really far on the level, set the LOD really high, and it'll be relatively cheap compared to the main NPCs. So this is super simple, but I thought it would be a really neat idea to help you guys create that level of immersion. And last but not least, this I worked on yesterday. I actually like this quite a bit. It's called Spline Crowd, and you can see it here. And it's a super simple blueprint. It basically, you create a spline path, and then it'll automatically spawn NPCs, and the NPCs will just follow the path. And again, these NPCs are optimized just like the static one. And by the way, I'm not using the optimized version here, but I will. You decide whether this is a closed loop or open loop. You decide how many NPCs to spawn. You give it the classes to spawn. In this case, I have like 2 females and 2 males. You have some information here like movement speed, multiplier. You have a spline offset, offset range. So like they generate up and down, and you even have the forced LOD as well. So if I click simulate here, oops, might want to activate it first. Active, and I'm going to press play here. Notice that now you have NPCs that have spawned and are following a path. And you can see that they're not all going at the same location here. And that's because we have an offset, 200 units to the left and 200 units to the right. So it's going to pick a random location to spawn. And then the NPCs are going to just walk around. Notice that some NPCs are faster than others. And this is the speed multiplier that you see here. So whatever the speed of the NPC, it can be 80% of that original speed or 150% of that original speed. And when the NPC is spawned, it chooses a random speed, and the NPCs are just going to be following the crowd location here. Why is this cool? Again, similar idea to the static NPCs. If you want to have like a lot of NPCs that are kind of like walking on a street and you just need them to walk, you can just use this or a path specifically for a city. These NPCs can be a lot lighter than the really big ones here, the really complex ones. And it again should help you create that sense of a crowd. So let's make this like really ridiculous. Say that you want 250 NPCs. It's a really busy time of the day, and see what happens here. Obviously, this is pretty performance heavy. So if I click on show FPS, you can see that I'm getting like 30 frames per second. 20, 30, about 30 frames per second, because again, we're talking about 250 NPCs. In this case, these guys are not optimized because I haven't had time to do that. So I'm gonna do that later, and I'm gonna do an optimization pass on the meshes, same as I did with the static, but you get the idea here. You can see that the NPCs are going all over the place. And if I were to possess, you can see here, for example, these NPCs. If I go to eject, you can see that the NPCs are here. But you also have the option to force the mesh LOD. So I'm going to put number 7 here, and I'm going to hit play. And you can see that these guys are looking absolutely low poly. And look at my frame rate. I probably gained maybe about 5 frames per second or something. It's like 35 or something. So it's not that big, but 5 frames per second is 5 frames more per second, right? So again, if you want to have a massive crowd that is like far away that the player's not going to see, and you just want a street where NPCs are just walking around, you can use this little tool, and you can see that the NPCs are just walking around. So yeah, that is all I wanted to show you guys. A lot of updates. I'm really happy with the way things are turning out. This is really fun. Actually, I just did this last night as the last thing. This is really fun because you can see them kind of walking around. So yeah, I have more updates coming soon. I have the optimization on the proximity system, the second pass. It's not done, but that's probably going to be the next devlog. That makes it even better, squeezes even more performance out of your crowds, and that's intelligent crowds. And I have some damage code that I want to add very soon. That means that when the NPC gets hit, there's going to be an HP, and I want him to run away from you when that happens. That shouldn't be too hard to add, but again, just to give you guys kind of that sense of you know, NPCs being kind of giving you life in your world. So so yeah, what do you guys think? Much better stations, as you can see here, and then some very simple but useful tools to create more crowds in your levels. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any suggestions, I do take them seriously. I am working really hard and pushing this to try to get it to a state where maybe it can be submitted to Epic fairly soon. So let me know any suggestions or ideas or what you think so far. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.